The night on Varkon. Seven looked calm, but the silence was wrong. Too heavy. Too tight. A cold wind slid between the tall blue trees, making a thin crying sound, like the forest itself was grieving. Above, giant silver stars drifted slowly across the dark sky, glowing like lanterns floating on black water. It was a beautiful night. But tonight, beauty felt cruel. Because tonight, an alien mother named Soraya was walking toward a tiny grave. Her steps were weak, almost dragging. Her hand shook around a glowing crystal flower, its blue light trembling like a tiny heartbeat. Her face looked tired beyond years. Her eyes were swollen and empty, eyes that had cried until they felt dry, yet still carried the weight of tears that refused to fall. The grave was small, too small. It belonged to her child, Lyra, the only light in her life. Everyone said Lyra died during the evacuation chaos, when humans abandoned the planet. Everyone said the humans caused it. Everyone said the child was gone forever. But Soraya had never fully believed them. She had no proof, only doubt, only pain. She reached the grave. The soil was fresh, still dark and soft, like a wound that refused to close. She knelt slowly, placing the glowing flower on the mound. Her fingers brushed the dirt. They trembled. "Lyra," she whispered. Her voice cracked as if her heart broke all over again. She pressed her palm against the small grave, her breath shaking. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I cannot protect you." The forest around her glowed faintly, a soft blue pulse moving through the trees, like the planet itself was breathing slowly, watching quietly. But the glow did not comfort her. Nothing did. She touched the little stone at the head of the grave, a circle with 2 stars carved into it. Lyra's favorite drawing. Soraya carved it herself, even though her hand shook so hard she could barely hold the tool. "Remember, Lyra," she whispered. "You always said the stars speak to you. You said they keep you safe." Her lips curved in a sad, broken smile. "Maybe they speak to you now, wherever you are." A sudden gust of wind rushed past her. This one felt different, sharper, almost like a warning. Soraya stood slowly, ready to leave, but then she froze. Something was wrong. Her eyes locked onto the grave. Her heart slammed inside her chest. The soil was disturbed. Not much, but enough. She knelt again, fingers shaking violently, and touched the shifted dirt. It wasn't how she left it, not even close. The soil had been moved, pressed, shifted by hands or feet. Fresh lines, small depressions, soft ridges. Her throat tightened. "No," she whispered. Her voice trembled. "Who touched your grave?" The forest around her went silent, completely silent, as if waiting for her reaction. Then she saw them. Footprints. Tiny ones. Almost like a child's. Soraya's breath caught in her throat. Her fingers touched the small prints. They were faint but real. Light. Weak. Like a child who could barely stand. Her heart twisted painfully. And then she saw the second set. Large. Deep. Heavy. Human footprints. Human boots. Human stride. Human direction. Leading away from the grave. Soraya's breathing turned fast and sharp. No human should be here. Humans left the planet days ago. They were gone. All of them. But these prints, they were fresh. Hours old. She touched one of the boot prints. The cold soil crumbled under her fingers. This was real, not a dream, not a hope, not madness. A human had stood beside her child's grave. Her lips trembled. Why would a human come here? Her voice was barely a whisper. The small footprints, Lyra's size, shifted. They wobbled, then suddenly disappeared, as if the child had been lifted, picked up. Soraya followed the trail deeper into the glowing forest, her steps uneven, hope and terror clawing at her from inside. This was her child's step pattern, her child's weight, her child's tiny stride. Her chest tightened painfully. Tears filled her eyes again, this time from a hope too dangerous to believe. Then she saw it, a torn piece of cloth stuck on a sharp, glowing branch. She reached for it slowly, as if touching a dream. Her hand closed around the cloth, soft, rough, and warm from the forest light. Then she saw the symbol on it, a human military patch. blue and silver, torn at the edges, and on the front, tiny alien handprints. A child had held it tightly. Soraya's heart hammered, so hard it hurt. Her fingers curled around the patch. Her breath shook. A human had carried her child. A human had touched the grave. A human had left this behind. Her daughter, Lyra was not in the grave. Soraya closed her eyes, her voice breaking into the cold air. Lyra, where are you? The forest answered with a deep, cold wind, brushing against her like a whisper pushing her forward, toward the truth she feared, toward the truth she hoped for, toward the truth that would change everything. Her child might be alive, and a human had taken her. Soraya moved deeper into the glowing forest of Varkon 7, holding the torn human patch in her hand. It felt warm, like it had been held tightly by small fingers. Lyra's fingers. Her child scent still lingered on the cloth. Faint but real. It made Soraya's heart beat painfully fast. The forest grew darker as she walked. The trees glowed softly, but the path ahead looked strange, almost as if the forest was hiding something. Watching. Waiting. Soraya had lived on this planet all her life. She knew every sound, every creature, every path. But tonight, everything felt different. Too quiet, too still. Even the wind sounded nervous. Her steps were slow but determined. If a human had taken her child, then she would find them. If her child was alive, she would not lose her again. A new footprint appears. Soraya followed the footprints until the trees suddenly opened into a narrow clearing. The ground here was softer, darker, and there, in the middle, she saw a single human boot print, deeper than the rest. She knelt beside it, touching the edge. It was fresh, very fresh, maybe only minutes old. Her breath caught. The human was close, very close. But then she saw something even stranger. Beside the boot print, beside the heavy step, was a tiny handprint, small, weak, her child's. Soraya's chest tightened, so hard it hurt. Her eyes filled with tears she could no longer control. Lyra, my little star. She wiped her tears quickly. Emotions could come later. Right now, she needed to find a human who had her child. A sound in the dark. A sudden sound, soft, almost like a faint metallic click, echoed through the trees behind her. Soraya spun around. Nothing, only glowing trunks. And silence. Her senses sharpened. Her species could hear things humans couldn't. And she was sure of one thing. Someone was here. Someone was watching her. She stepped back slowly. Her hand moved to the small blade at her waist. Then another sound. Not a tree. Not the wind. It was breathing. Human breathing. Shallow. Controlled. Soraya spoke into the darkness. Come out. I know you are here. Silence. Come out, she repeated, her voice stronger. Where's my child? This time the dark answered. A faint blue light appeared between two trees. Then another, and another. A figure stepped out slowly, raising both hands in the air, the human sign of peace. The glowing trees lit his face. A human soldier, dirty, exhausted, wearing torn armor. His left arm was bandaged. His right hand trembled. But his eyes were not hostile. They were full of fear, exhaustion, and something else, regret. Soraya's body tensed. She stepped forward, blade out. Where is my daughter? The human swallowed hard. His voice was rough, tired. She is safe. Soraya's blood froze. Safe? How could anything be safe with a human soldier? Her voice became a whisper of rage. Where's she? The soldier lowered his hand slowly. In a hidden shelter, he said. Close by. He paused. She is alive because I kept her alive. Soraya's heart hammered. Hope and anger collided in her chest. Why? She demanded. Why would a human save an alien child? The soldier exhaled deeply, as if carrying a heavy truth. Because she saved me first. The soldier's story begins. The soldier sat weakly on a fallen tree. Soraya kept her blade ready, her eyes sharp, her heart racing. He looked at her with tired eyes. My name is Daniel, he said. I was part of the evacuation force. Soraya said nothing. Daniel continued. Our transport ship was attacked that day. Something hit us. Explosion. Shockwave. I don't know. I crashed far from the extraction point. He touched his bandaged arm. I was hurt. Couldn't walk well. Couldn't call for help. I thought I was going to die. Soraya's eyes narrowed. She wanted to feel nothing for him. But she listened. Then, Daniel said slowly, I heard crying. Her breath stopped. A small voice. A child. He looked directly at Soraya. I found her under the debris of a fallen tree. Weak. Hurt. Barely breathing. Soraya's heart clenched. Lyra, her little Lyra. She imagined her child trapped, crying, alone, and a human soldier finding her. Daniel continued. I tried to call for backup. No one came. He looked down at his shaking hands. And I couldn't leave her there. Soraya's grip tightened on her blade. So you took her, she said coldly. Daniel shook his head. No, she took my hand first. Soraya blinked. Daniel's voice softened. I reached for her to check her breaths, and she held onto my fingers. His throat tightened. She didn't know who I was. She didn't care I was human. She was just scared. For the first time, his eyes showed something pure, guilt mixed with affection. I couldn't let her die, so I carried her. I kept her warm. I fed her. I hid her when patrol drones flew above us. Soraya's blade lowered an inch. Daniel continued. She cried for you in her sleep. His voice cracked. She kept saying, Mama, Mama, I want Mama. A tear slid down Soraya's cheek. Daniel looked away. That's why I went to the grave, he said softly. I wanted to know her name. I wanted to know if she had family left. He shook his head. When I saw the small grave, I knew everyone believed she was gone. Soraya stepped closer. Where is she now? She whispered. Daniel looked up. In a safe shelter. Not far. He stood slowly, painfully. If you want, I will take you to her. Soraya's heart burned with hope and terror. If Daniel was lying, she would kill him. If he was telling the truth, she would see her child again. The forest wind rose, pushing the branches aside like a path opening just for them. Soraya tightened her grip on the glowing patch. Show me, she said, and together, the alien mother and the broken human soldier walked into the darkness where the truth waited. The forest seemed to shift around them as Soraya and the human soldier, Daniel, moved deeper into the glowing woods. The light from the trees pulsed gently, as if guiding or warning. Soraya could not tell which. Daniel walked slowly, limping with every step. The bandage on his arm was dark with dried blood. He looked weak, but Soraya did not lower her guard. Not yet. Not until she saw Lyra with her own eyes. She kept a small distance from him, close enough to grab him if he tried anything, far enough to strike if needed. Daniel noticed but said nothing. He only glanced back once and nodded to her. You're close, he said quietly. She's safe. The words made Soraya's heart tighten with painful hope. Safe, safe. She repeated the word in her mind, afraid it might break if spoken too loudly. The path began to slope downward. The air grew colder, thicker. A faint humming sound vibrated through the ground, something mechanical hidden beneath the soil. Soraya's eyes narrowed. Is that your shelter? She asked. Daniel nodded. A crash pod. Old model. But it works. Soraya had seen human crash pod before. They were strong, armored, sealed tight. Hard to find unless you knew where to look. She wondered how long her child had been inside one. Was she warm? Was she fed? Was she scared? Her chest tightened again. Daniel suddenly raised his hand gently. Slow down, he whispered. She sleeps lightly. Noise wakes her. Soraya froze. Her heart thumped wildly. Sleeping lightly, she was close. So close she could almost hear Lyra's little breaths. Daniel moved aside the branches carefully. Behind them, hidden between two giant tree roots, was a metallic round hatch half buried in the ground. A human crash pod. The metal surface was scratched, dented, and covered in forest dust. But the small indicator light on the hatch blinked softly, blue, steady, alive. Daniel kneeled slowly, wincing from pain, and placed his hand on the panel. A soft click echoed. The hatch unlocked. Warm yellow light spilled out from inside, a safe, soft glow that humans often use for children. Soraya's breath caught painfully. Daniel looked at her. His face was serious. Respectful. "She's inside," he whispered. "Sleeping." Soraya did not wait. She moved past him, heart racing, eyes burning. Inside, the crash pod was small and warm. Soft blankets covered the metallic floor. A tiny food container stood in the corner. A small heater glowed orange. And there, in the deepest corner, under a gray human blanket, a small figure slept. Soraya's knees weakened instantly. It was Lyra, her little body curled up, her tiny hands near her face, her chest rising and falling in slow, peaceful breaths. Alive, alive, alive. A sound escaped Soraya's throat. Half sob, half laugh, pure emotion. She covered her mouth, afraid to wake her child with her tears. Daniel stayed quiet at the entrance, not stepping inside. His expression was unreadable, relief, exhaustion, and something like guilt. Soraya moved closer, every step trembling. She reached out with shaking hands and touched Lyra's hair, soft, warm, real. Her whole world broke open with joy and pain mixed together. "My little star," she whispered. Lyra's eyes fluttered. Soraya froze. The child blinked slowly, confused and sleepy. Then her gaze landed on her mother. "Mama," she whispered. Soraya broke. She pulled Lyra into her arms, hugging her so tightly she feared she might never let go. Lyra clung to her with small trembling hands, burying her face against Soraya's neck. "I missed you, Mama." "I'm here," Soraya cried softly. "I'm here. I will never leave you again." It was a moment so pure the whole forest seemed to go silent. Daniel turned his face away, giving them privacy, even though he looked like he desperately needed rest. After long minutes, Lyra lifted her small head and whispered, "Mama, he helped me." Her tiny finger pointed to Daniel. Soraya looked at the human soldier. He stood silently, leaning against a tree, breathing heavily. The bandage on his arm was soaked, and his eyes looked unfocused. He seemed close to collapsing. Lyra tugged her mother's sleeve. "Mama, he kept me warm. He gave me food. He told stories so I not cry." Soraya's heart twisted. She looked at Daniel again. He didn't ask for thanks. He didn't speak. He just watched with quiet relief. A human soldier. The same species everyone blamed. The same people accused of killing her child. And yet, he was the one who saved her. Soraya carried Lyra in her arms and stepped out of the pod. The night air was cool on her tear-wet cheeks. Daniel finally spoke, his voice barely a whisper. "I didn't know if anyone was coming back for her." He looked down. "But I promised her I wouldn't let her die alone." Soraya stared at him deeply. The forest wind moved softly between them. "You saved my child," she said quietly. Daniel nodded. "I tried." His legs shook. He leaned heavier against the tree. Soraya noticed the way he trembled. He needed help. He was hurt, exhausted, starving. Her instincts as a mother, once only focused on Lyra, shifted slightly. He saved her child. He protected her daughter with his own life. He was no enemy. Lyra reached out her tiny hand toward Daniel. "Come, Daniel," she said softly. "You come with us?" Daniel looked surprised, almost shocked. Soraya looked at him, then at her daughter, and for the first time, she did not feel fear. She felt something unexpected. Trust. Weak, fragile, but real. "We will talk," Soraya said gently. "For now, you need rest." Daniel nodded, unable to argue, and the alien mother, the human soldier, and the tiny child stood together under the glowing trees. 3 lives connected by fate, danger, and a truth that neither of their worlds was ready to face. The night outside the cabin was colder than before, and the forest no longer felt safe. Ethan moved quietly, checking the small tracker he had taken from the alien child's pod. A single blinking dot pulsed on the screen. It was weak, but it was moving. Inside the cabin, the little alien girl, Lyra, slept under a warm blanket. Her breathing was soft, almost musical. Ethan stood near the door, watching her for a moment. He still could not understand how she survived. Her body was fragile, but her spirit was strong. Stronger than most humans he had ever met. He turned the scanner again. That blinking worries him. Someone or something was searching. Ethan whispered to himself. Whoever buried her wasn't alone. He checked the batteries, loaded his flashlight, and stepped outside. Leaves cracked under his boots. The wind pushed through the trees like a warning. He had been a rescuer his whole life. But this time, he felt like he was the one being hunted. He walked deeper into the woods. The signal grew stronger. Beep, beep, beep. Suddenly, the beep stopped. The tracker went silent. Ethan froze. The forest became still. Too still. He lifted the device and lightly tapped it. Nothing. No signal. Then a soft hum filled the air. It was low, mechanical, and it vibrated through the ground. Ethan turned slowly. A metallic drone hovered above the trees. Its blue light swept across the forest floor like a scanner. It moved with smooth precision, silent, except for the deep hum. Ethan whispered, "They're already here." He backed away slowly, hiding behind a fallen tree. The drone paused. Its blue light flickered and pointed directly at him. Ethan held his breath. The light scanned the ground near him, stopped just short of his hiding place, then turned away. The drone shifted direction, gliding through the forest like a hunter searching for prey. He did not move until it was far away. When he finally stood, sweat dripped down his neck. His hands were shaking. This was no random search tool. This was a recovery unit. Someone powerful wanted the child back. Ethan rushed back toward the cabin, moving faster, ignoring the branches scratching his arms. His only thought was Lyra. As he approached the cabin, he saw a glow inside, dim, soft, and pulsing. He pushed open the door. Lyra was awake. She sat on the bed, trembling. Her hands glowed with a faint silver light that moved like smoke around her fingers. Her eyes were wide with fear. "They found me," she whispered in a soft, broken voice. Ethan stopped in shock. "You can speak English?" She nodded weakly. "Not well learning, but I know danger." The silver light around her hands flickered again, then slowly faded. Ethan knelt beside her. "Who's looking for you?" She hugged her knees. "Hunters. Soldiers for my world. They want me dead." Ethan felt a chill in his bones. "Why?" She looked at him with eyes full of sadness and something older than her age. "I am not normal, child. I am heir to something very big." Before Ethan could ask more, the window flashed with a blue beam, the scanner light from a drone. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand. "We need to go. Now." She nodded, fear shaking her tiny body. They ran out the back door into the forest. The drone's light cut through the trees like a blade. Ethan lifted Lyra in his arms and sprinted through the darkness. Branches slapped his face. Leaves burst under his feet. The forest roared with alarms. The hum grew louder, closer. Then Ethan realized something terrifying. The drone wasn't searching anymore. It was chasing. Lyra buried her face in his shoulder. "They won't stop," she whispered. Ethan tightened his grip. "I won't stop either." Ahead of them, the forest opened into a clearing, but something massive stood there, something metallic, sharp, and alive with lights. A ship, not a human one. Lyra's voice trembled. "They brought a warship for me." Ethan stared at the towering craft, its engines glowing like blue fire. He whispered, "What are you, kid?" Lyra looked up at him, her eyes shining. "I am the child they fear, and the child my mother is searching for." And behind them, the drone's hum turned into a roar. Ethan stood frozen for a second, staring at the massive alien warship rising between the trees. It looked like a dark metallic beast, its surface covered in glowing blue lines that moved like veins. The engines pulsed slowly, as if the ship was breathing. Lyra squeezed Ethan's shirt. "They came fast, faster than I thought." Ethan looked down at her, trying to keep his voice calm. "What do they want from a child?" She shook her head. They don't want me. They want to erase me. Before Ethan could speak, a heavy thump echoed from inside the ship, like a giant door unlocking. A ramp began to lower. Blue light spilled across the forest floor. Ethan pulled Lyra behind a large rock. Stay down. Don't move. Lyra nodded, her small body shaking. The ramp touched the ground and armored soldiers stepped out. Tall, silent, their armor was dark silver, shaped to fit their alien bodies. Their helmets had glowing blue visors that looked like eyes. There were 5 of them. They spread out, walking slowly, scanning the forest with long spear-like weapons that crackled with electricity. Ethan whispered, "Lyra, who are they?" She swallowed hard. "Royal Shadows. Elite hunters. They obey the council. And the council wants you dead?" Lyra nodded. "Because of what I will become." Ethan didn't understand, but there was no time to ask. One of the soldiers stopped suddenly. Its visor glowed brighter. It scanned the ground and turned its head toward the rock they were hiding behind. Ethan felt his heart stop. The soldier took one slow step forward. Lyra grabbed Ethan's hand. "I can help. I can hide us." "No, it's too dangerous," Ethan whispered, but she closed her eyes anyway. A soft silver light formed around them. Thin, like mist at first, then thicker. The air shimmered gently. Ethan looked at his own hands, and they were slightly blurred, like heat rising from a road. The soldier stepped closer. Its visor swept over their hiding place. Ethan held his breath. The soldier paused, then turned away. Lyra collapsed instantly, the light fading. Ethan caught her. She was breathing fast, like she had run a long distance. "Are you okay?" She nodded weakly. "Using power makes me tired." "Then stop using it," he said softly. "I'll handle the rest." But the danger was only growing. The soldiers moved deeper into the forest, spreading out in a hunting formation. Their weapons crackled loudly now, ready to fire. Ethan lifted Lyra and quietly moved toward the opposite side of the clearing. Every sound, every leaf made his heart pound harder. Suddenly, a loud roar filled the night sky. Ethan looked up. A second ship streaked across the clouds, glowing bright gold. It moved fast, too fast to be human. It came from the mountains and dropped low, shaking the entire forest. Lyra gasped, "That ship, I know it." The golden ship fired a beam toward the ground. Not a weapon, but a blinding light that scattered the hunters. They yelled in their alien language and raised their weapons. The golden ship landed hard, smashing trees, sending dirt flying. Its ramp opened instantly. A tall alien woman ran out. Her skin glowed a soft pale blue, and her eyes were bright silver, full of fear and hope. She wore armor, but it looked ceremonial, not like the hunters. Lyra whispered, voice breaking, "Mother." Ethan felt his heart jump. The alien woman fell to her knees the moment she saw Lyra in his arms. Tears streamed down her cheeks. She cried a sound Ethan could not understand, a sound full of grief, relief, and love all at once. But the moment didn't last. The hunters turned toward them, weapons charging. The alien mother stood quickly, her face changing from sorrow to rage. She stepped in front of Ethan and Lyra, raising her hands. Light exploded from her palms. A massive silver barrier formed, blocking the hunters' attack. The energy hit the barrier and scattered into sparks. Ethan shielded Lyra's eyes. The alien mother shouted, "No one touches my child again." Her voice shook the air. The hunters reloaded their weapons. The forest became silent, waiting, and Ethan realized something. This wasn't just a rescue. This was the beginning of a war. The forest fell silent, too silent. Only the soft crackling of the hunters' weapons filled the air, glowing and ready. Ethan held Lyra close, his breathing tense. The alien mother, Soraya, stood tall in front of them like a shield. Her silver eyes reflected the blue glow of the enemy weapons. "Stay behind me," she said, her voice calm but trembling with rage. Ethan didn't argue. Lyra clung to him, whispering, "Mother, I'm here." Soraya's eyes softened for a brief second. A single tear slid down her cheek. But then, One of the hunters fired. A bolt of blue electricity shot through the air like lightning. Soraya moved her hand sharply. A shimmering wave of silver light burst from her, catching the attack midair. The energy twisted bent, then shot upward into the sky, like a broken comet. Ethan stared in shock. You deflected that? Soraya didn't reply. She stepped forward. The ground trembled. The hunters tried again, this time firing together. Blue bolts, 5 at once. Soraya spread her arms wide. A giant shield of silver energy formed, curving around her like a dome. The bolts hit it, exploding into sparks. Lyra whispered to Ethan, "Mother is strong, but she is not strong enough forever." Ethan felt a chill. "Then we need to help her." Lyra nodded faintly. "Only one way." Before Ethan could ask, Lyra stepped forward and touched her mother's back gently. Silver light flowed from Lyra's hand into Soraya. Soraya gasped, her power surging brighter. The hunters hesitated. Even they felt the sudden shift. One of them shouted something in their alien language, panic in its tone. Soraya stepped forward again, her aura glowing like a silver fire. "You hunted my child," she said. "You stood near her grave." Her voice shook the trees. "You will not leave this forest." The hunters raised their weapons wildly, firing again. Soraya moved her arm, and the energy shield shattered outward like a wave. The force slammed into the hunters. 2 of them were thrown into the trees, crashing hard. Another hit the ground, armor cracked. But the last 2 didn't fall. They activated something on their suits. Dark blue lights wrapped around their bodies, forming an energy armor. Soraya's eyes narrowed. Shadow mode. The 2 hunters vanished. Ethan blinked. Where did they go? Lyra whispered, "Invisible and silent. They can strike from any direction." Ethan's grip tightened. "That's bad." Soraya closed her eyes. "Stay close. They cannot hide your hearts." She snapped her eyes open and struck the ground with her palm. Silver ripples spread to the forest, brushing the air like a soft wind. Ethan felt it sweep over him, warm and light. Then a shimmer appeared to Soraya's right. Soraya turned instantly, catching a spear with her bare hand. Sparks shot everywhere. She twisted, throwing the hunter into a tree trunk, so hard the bark split. The second invisible hunter leaped from behind. Ethan saw it only because leaves shifted slightly. "Soraya, behind you." She spun, raising her arm, but she was a moment too slow. The hunter's spear slashed her shoulder, releasing a burst of blue energy. Soraya staggered, holding the wound. The hunter lunged again. Ethan didn't think. He acted. He grabbed a fallen branch, thick and heavy, and swung it with his full strength. The branch hit the hunter's helmet. Hard. The invisible shimmer broke, revealing the armored figure fully. Its visor cracked. It stumbled back, momentarily dazed. Soraya looked at Ethan with shock. "You hit a shadow soldier with wood?" Ethan shrugged breathlessly. "I didn't have anything else." Lyra giggled weakly, even in the chaos. But the moment of relief didn't last. The hunter recovered, its visor flashing red. It charged at Ethan. Before it could reach him, Soraya stepped between them and unleashed a burst of energy so bright Ethan had to shield his eyes. When he looked again, the hunter was on the ground, armor shattered, not moving. The last 2 hunters, the ones thrown away earlier, stood shakily. They looked at Soraya, then at Lyra, then at Ethan, then they turned and ran into the forest, retreating, cowards now that their advantage was gone. Ethan let out a long breath. "It's over?" Soraya shook her head. "No, this was only a scouting group." She turned to Ethan fully for the first time. Her silver eyes softened. "You protected my daughter. You fought for her. You risked your life." Ethan rubbed his shoulder awkwardly. "Well, I wasn't going to let them take her." Soraya stepped closer, placing her hand gently on his arm. "Then you are not just a guardian. You are part of this family now." Lyra hugged Ethan tightly. But the moment was interrupted by a low rumble across the forest. Deep, distant, and growing. Ethan looked toward the sky. Dark shapes appeared above the mountains. More ships. Bigger ships. Soraya's eyes widened. They found us. Ethan swallowed hard. What do we do now? Soraya lifted Lyra into her arms, her voice steady. Now we run. Together. The forest around them darkened as the enemy fleet approached, and the war truly began. The warden stood tall in the smoke, his armor glowing with royal symbols. His spear crackled with blue energy, aimed directly at Soraya, Lyra, and Ethan. The council soldiers behind him raised their weapons, their steps heavy on the cracked stone floor. Soraya tightened her grip on Lyra, her silver eyes blazing. The air around her shimmered with power, a glowing aura stretching like fire from her palms. Ethan held his breath, ready to react, but he knew there was nothing he could do against that kind of force. The warden spoke, his voice deep, echoing across the sanctuary. Step aside, alien. The child belongs to council. Soraya stepped forward. Her energy flared brighter, forming a protective dome around the small craft. Sparks flew as the council soldiers fired, hitting the shield with blue beams that fizzled and exploded harmlessly. Never, Soraya said. She is my daughter. No one touches her. Lyra peeked from behind her mother, her small hand glowing faintly. Ethan noticed a silver light connecting her to Soraya. It strengthened the shield, made it almost unbreakable. The warden snarled and slammed his spear into the ground. The impact sent waves of force rippling through the sanctuary. Stones cracked, dust fell from the ceiling, and Ethan struggled to stay on his feet. Soraya's eyes narrowed. Ethan, now! Ethan nodded. He lifted Lyra gently into his arms. Soraya activated the ship's controls. The teardrop-shaped craft rose slightly, hovering above the ground. Its engines glowed softly, then brightened as it prepared to launch. The warden shouted, pointing his spear. Stop them. But before he could react, Soraya extended her arms fully. A massive wave of silver energy erupted from her body, sweeping through the sanctuary. The council soldiers were thrown back. Sparks flew as their weapons collided with the energy, breaking some of their armor. The ship rose higher, the hatch open and ready. Ethan ran toward it, carrying Lyra. The warden tried to chase, but Soraya's energy slowed him, pushing him back. Go! She shouted. Ethan leapt into the ship with Lyra. Soraya followed, her aura surrounding the ship as the doors closed. The engines roared. The ship lifted, gliding smoothly through the forest. Trees shook, branches breaking under the force of the blast. The warden and his soldiers stood at the edge of the sanctuary, shouting in fury, but they were too late. The ship shot upward, piercing the dark sky, leaving a trail of silver light behind. Inside, Ethan set Lyra down. She looked out the small window, eyes wide. The forest stretched below them, the council ships approaching from all directions. Soraya stood beside them, her hands resting gently on Lyra's shoulders. Her face was pale but determined. They cannot touch her now, she said softly. Not while I live. Ethan looked at her. Where do we go? Soraya smiled faintly. Somewhere safe, where she can grow, learn, and be free. And somewhere we can fight back if they ever come again. Lyra held her mother's hand tightly. Mama, I'm safe. Soraya bent down, hugging her. Always, my little star. Always. The ship soared higher, leaving Varkon 7 behind. The glowing forest became smaller beneath them. The council's warships tried to follow, but Soraya's piloting and her protective energy kept them safe. For the first time since the chaos began, there was peace, quiet, fragile, but real. Ethan looked at the alien mother and child. He smiled softly. You did it, we did it. Soraya nodded, her eyes on the horizon. This is only the beginning. But together, we are stronger than they ever imagined. And as the silver ship flew into the stars, the mother, her child, and the human soldier disappeared into the night, ready to face whatever came next, united, unbroken, unstoppable. The end.